bringing you the latest news, game updates, insights, highlights, and everything Liberty Hockey. This is Rock the Rink, where Liberty Hockey lives.
Tourney time is upon us. Hey there, friends. Welcome to Rock the Rink. Pat Strawn, Justin Forth, Rhett McGibbon here with you today. Excited to dive into natty time of season. Trade deadline's over. That means Acha. It's going. Let's hit it up. Flames, number 4. We'll talk men's Division 1 here first. Heading into natties as the 4 seed. Let's kind of like recap the season here. But Pat, what a really just a terrific year with all these freshmen coming into the program. You always wonder when you have that many new bodies coming into a team, how it'll all gel. It seemed to work out pretty well.
It did, and I think like you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? Like how was it going to gel, and how quickly were they going to gel too? And they found their chemistry really early in the season, and I think that made the difference. You take a look at this depth of this team. More guys this year had 10-plus points than last year. A lot of 10-plus goal scorers too. 9 guys were able to score 10 or more goals this year. That's huge, and I think even also two guys that contributed, like I said, but just in the scoring column, just like gives that depth of scoring, so you're not relying on just one line or one player, and particularly it's up and down their forward lineup, and I think that's been a big difference maker. Also, too, I don't think everyone was expecting the goaltending play to be so stout after losing Hunter Vorostik. Nick Bernstein and the rookie Conrad Kausch have been phenomenal, especially in some big moments this season, and like that has also been a key part of the success we've seen this year.
Fourth, let me kind of bounce a question off of you.
Yeah.
The one area I think that is of, and I think you could even title this like slightly major concern, is special teams play.
Yeah.
When you look at the numbers, your power play is clicking at under 22%, and your PK is at under 82%. Both those numbers, I think, could give you cause for concern.
Yeah, I think if you want to spin that as a positive, I think you don't really worry about the power play numbers. Okay. I think 21%, 22% in there is respectable. Right. If you're playing a Minot, if you're playing an Ohio, one of those top teams, I think that's respectable. The number that is the most concerning is the 81%. Yeah. You want to be up to that 90 to 94 against those top teams in this tournament to give yourself a chance.
Because it was the last series at home against Ohio.
Yeah.
You're thinking, okay, their power play was abysmal.
Yeah,
and they found life against
it did.
Liberty.
Yeah, they got 3 power play goals in 2 games, so that's definitely tough. I will say the power play on the road is a little bit better. It's above 85% on the road. So, the PK, not the power.
Yeah, the power play.
Yeah. And then the power play also is a little better on the road. So that is kind of nice because you are on the road for nationals.
There you go.
So that helps you out a little. So, but yeah, I mean, it's the special teams battle. I mean, we've said that all season. It's going to be so key at nationals, and the biggest difference for me, in my opinion, like you want to score on the man advantage, but also Forth just talked about it a minute ago. If you're not going to score on the man advantage, then you don't want to give up that man advantage goal as well.
You have to win the special teams battle. Like in tournaments like this, that's like in some ways I feel like you could just be even 5-on-5 for the most part. As long as you can win special teams, you're in good shape.
Yeah, and again, we look at these stats like. The good thing is they also mean nothing going into this tournament.
That's very true.
Right? Like, who's peaking at the right time? And again, you don't need it to be perfect or at 90% in the season. You need that for 4 games, 5 games in a row. Or even, honestly, if you go 0% the first 2 games and you win that 5-on-5 battle like you talked about, and then you go nuts the semifinal, final. Right? So it's hockey, and that's why it's exciting to watch.
We'll say this, though. Teams are battle-tested. Flames are battle-tested coming into this. Have played 9 of the 23 teams at Natties. That's almost 50%. That's an absurd number that you've played that many teams that are there. And then when you look at it, just their record in their last 10 games, it wasn't a cakewalk to the finish. Like, they played some quality teams in there. They're sitting at 8-1-1. So this is a team that is playing some good hockey right now. Would you say they've peaked, Pat? Are they in that?
I think they're in their peaking realm because like you look at the entire spring semester, and this is why I think Coach Andy's done a great job with the schedule. Every team they played this semester, because technically for the whole semester it's 8-1-3, losing those first 2 games at overtime versus Calvin,
which your guys were gone.
Yeah. Like you were without 8 guys and then 7 in game 1 and 2. But then truthfully, everybody you've played this semester is at nationals. That's huge.
Yeah,
right?
that's big.
Like so, like it's not like you had some games where you really had to either come back to prove that you can. Okay, yeah, we still got that dog in us, right, to get back in the fight, and or also you put the hammer down on some of these two teams too. So like, I think that bodes well for Liberty, and yeah, like the question is like that first game, which we're still waiting to see who the opponent is, how Liberty comes out in those first 5 minutes. Do they come out setting the tone, which will set the tone, in my opinion, for the whole tournament, or are they kind of going to let the team that they're playing set the tone, and then they have to work their way back in the game?
Fourth, when you look at this team from last year to this year, obviously the new guys, is there like an X factor in the lineup that you could see kind of being that stereotypical playoff hockey guy that could make a difference for a Liberty team that they haven't had in past years?
Maybe not that they haven't had, but like Conrad Kausch to me is the guy that just like he needs to play big, and I think he will. I think anytime I've seen him on the ice and even in practice and watching it a little bit, he just wants to win and he wants to compete. And like when he walks around with a bounce in his step just all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think he's that guy I think he's on the bus right now thinking like, how am I going to help this team win this? And I think he's going to be exciting to watch, and I think he'll be able to do something special.
You got anybody in mind, Pat?
I feel like you could have a couple people, but truthfully, I think the X factor will be that fourth line, so-called fourth line.
Yes, I agree with
think.
that.
I think it's supposed to be DeBrito, Essenmarker, and Mason Smith. That line's going to be a matchup nightmare,
Which is
for some team.
Crazy that that's a fourth line,
Right, but and like
That's
so
a
I
second
talked
unit,
about
at least on many teams.
yeah, and I talked about how 9 guys have 10 goals. That entire line has 10 goals, each player.
Wow.
So, like, that is the big part, right? Like, I think that line could be a matchup nightmare. They all like to play physical. They're all fast. So, like, they could capitalize on some key matchups for LU and, like, definitely put some goals in the back. And that also, too, that line always brings some energy. Every time you see them out there, you always start seeing good things happening for Liberty shortly after.
Yeah. The one guy I really like is Tucker Shields. Like, I know that he's had a really good season and that, okay, it's not a surprise thing, but when you have a big body centerman that I think they've been lacking that in terms of depth in years past. Like you've had your Bartels, you've had your Garvins, but they never have really been like, I would say, a overly physical presence. It's happened in flashes, but I feel like Tucker kind of brings that element on a more consistent basis. And then, too, his face-off percentage in the defensive zone throughout the season, I think, was like near 60. So
yeah, that's very good. Those are good numbers.
Yeah, to have a guy that can take those defensive zone draws for your group and allow your Versalono, Kalendijk, and Olsons to just have a lot of offensive zone time and take those face-offs instead. And even that, the third line and fourth line, just to let them focus on ozone time and allow the Shields group to kind of just get you out of the zone and do the hard work of getting you, down the ice into the ozone again, I think will be big. So we'll see how that plays out. As we move on here, Pat, you mentioned, all right, who are they going to play in that, I guess, quote-unquote, second round? They get the first round bye. They will face the winner of Indiana Tech and Oswego State. As you look through it here, Indiana Tech 28-4 on the season. Their goaltender was the MVP of their tournament here in Gage Reimer. I don't believe he's any relation to Optimus Rhyme, so things should be okay there. They won the tourney 3-1 over Lawrence Tech. Solid numbers as a group, and actually their PK and power play very similar to that of Liberty. Power play at 21.7% PK at 87. They do have 19 players with 10-plus points, but again, this is one of those teams where you look at it, I don't know if they have, I know that Malik Ali is well-respected among the league, but I don't know if they have quite the same depth that a Liberty would if you were to face them.
Yeah, and that would be the question, right? To see, because more than likely they're going to play Indiana Tech over Oswego State. Now, can't sleep on Oswego. Obviously, they shocked the tourney last year, but yeah, I mean, Indiana Tech do have some game breakers. Even Dufort, their defenseman too, he's one of the top scoring defensemen in the country. So they've got a guy on the front and back end. So that'll be the question, right? They've been splitting time with their two netminders too, which they've been having the fortune to do that. But have they been battle tested enough? Because yes, I know the Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference has some good teams in it, but not as many ranked teams, I think, that a lot of their opposition have seen throughout the season.
All right, Oswego State, Northeast Collegiate Hockey League. That's what they come out of. They're the regular season and champ here. their MVP in the playoffs, Braden Palfy, 8 goals, 16 assists, 24 points on the season. Again, this is one of those teams that doesn't have like a guy that's an absolute dude, but they do have on the back end Adam Durbin, who has been amazing this year. Did you pick him as your player of the year?
No, he was I made some fun award.
Yeah, okay.
Because I think they should. I think now we're talking about the Asha should have a forward, defenseman, and goaltender of the year as well.
I agree.
Right? Like
Yeah,
to
totally.
go with it. Because
Yeah.
I remember years ago when they did the Player of the Month, they would have those awards too.
Yeah.
So and then I was just like, no, my player of the year was Ikes from Calvin.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So, but I said this guy would be the defenseman
Yeah.
of the year, hands down.
He is, yeah. He's putting up some crazy numbers. 3rd in assists overall, 5th in points in the ACHA, number 1 scoring D-man in both categories. He will be fun to watch if he makes it through that first round. And then, you've got other bodies here. Carter McWilliams has 48 points on the season. Jeremy Keys has 27 goals. So they do have some talent in the lineup. But again, it comes down when you look at teams like this, is just have they played enough top-end competition to be battle-tested and ready for when Liberty plays them eventually. And it kind of goes back, like, this is no, like, slight to Rick Turner, but when Rick Turner back in the day was, like, putting up almost, it felt like 100 points for Liberty. I don't think it was quite that much, but, like, he was putting up crazy numbers. You have to remember, they're playing, like, IUP multiple times a year, and he was scoring, like, 6 goals in a game, right? So, like, are these teams playing competition like that where their guys on a given night can put up 8 points in one game and their numbers are highly inflated?
Yeah, I think just in general, like Liberty's top to bottom, the better team, right? Whichever team they face, they're still going to have to play good hockey. And that's the good thing about the level that the ACHA is at right now. You still have to take care and handle your business and be aware of players like that.
Yeah.
Whether it's, they're scoring 6 against a dusty team. Obviously, they are. I'm trying to think of the last time I scored 100 points in a season, and I can't think of a season. So no matter who you play, if you're putting up 100,
First year ACHA
D2, exactly, still not even. So
In practice,
either way, they're finding a way to make plays against anyone. So you just have to be aware of those guys,
That's true.
shut
That's a good
them down, and then top to bottom, just handle your business.
Any worry that the aura for Oswego State will come back and another Cinderella run? Because you get those teams that just kind of have that belief, right?
I
Like,
mean,
it's
yeah,
like,
possibly.
anytime.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Possibly, because
Yeah.
they know they've already seen what it takes. A good chunk of the team came back, so now they're like, yeah, why can't we do it again and get a good win and help continue to grow the program and move it forward?
How far did they get last year?
They won only their first game, but they beat a top 10 team in order to do it. So in Niagara, so which is pretty phenomenal for them. So they could have the chance to do it again, beating Indiana Tech, and then you get that belief when they start playing that number 4, they're gonna come out buzzing. Right?
Yeah, nothing to lose at that point.
Seriously.
So,
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think teams will be ready for them this year. That's the one thing. Surprise factor is gone. All right, turning our attention now. Lady Flames looking to regain their title. They enter the tournament as the number 1 team, and they have entered the tournament as the number 1 seed since 2018. That is quite the run. Last season, lost in the Final Four, double overtime. We all remember that. 2-1 to Minot State. But there's a new format to Nationals, Pat. Why don't you take us through it?
yeah, so there'll be 12 teams able to make it to Nationals this year. 4 pools. Wow, with 3 teams in each pool. So it's interesting to see how they do it. The top 4 teams basically are all going to play the first day, and they're going to play the lowest seed team in the pool, and then there'll be the middle range team and the lowest seed in each pool will get the day off, and then they'll play the final day versus their last opponent, and then whoever wins. If you go 2-0. You're definitely making it out, or 1-1, then you're hoping to get that goal differential or some help. So, the winner of each pool moves on to the semis, and then the winners of those go to the championship.
You like the new format?
My favorite format, I think, was a few years ago when the best of 3 series.
Did you? I like that too.
I like the first round of the best of 3, and I remember a lot of the coaches liked it too. They thought like, oh, the best of 3, like that's great. Like
also allows you to kind of get your feet wet. It's not like, oh dear, like one loss is the end of you.
Right. So, and like for some teams, like they needed that, right? Like because like so in 2019 when Liberty, it was when they won back to back in Texas. Lindenwood Belleville, I believe, lost that first game.
Yeah.
So, like, if it was the previous format, they'd be out.
Right.
Right? But then they win the second big, won the third in overtime, and then they were able to get their way to the championship game. So, like, yeah, I thought the best of 3 series was really good. The pool play, I mean, I guess I'll have to see what it looks like. But, yeah, I mean, part of me thinks, like, do you really need more teams at Nationals? Because sometimes that last team is not really there yet. But we do know the league is growing, so like obviously, I guess we'll wait to see.
What about you, Fourth? You've been involved in at least once of one of these national.
He's Fourth. You've been a part of like 4 different formats now, right?
Yeah.
Like so.
I agree with you guys. I like the best 2 of 3.
Okay.
It kind of your motivation to win those first 2 games, get that third day off. But I understand where teams were maybe a little bit hesitant because Midland back in the day when we played them, I think 2 years in a row. The 1 versus the 8, and so for them, I think mentally it's like, okay, we get Liberty twice, but it's also like it's playoff hockey. Like you see it even at the top levels. Like I think who was it 2 years ago when Florida snuck into the playoffs in the wild card spot and then ended up going to the conference final, Boston, right? And then 14 years ago when the LA Kings came in at number 8 and rolled to the Stanley Cup, right? You could just be peaking at the right time. But I like that format the best, if I'm being honest. It felt the most like playoff hockey and having to take care of business. But again, I like that they're just trying different things to see what kind of sticks. And again, I like Liberty's matchup heading into this tournament. I feel like they should be confident with the 2 teams that they're playing, and I like their pool. And there's some tough pools in there, like the 4, 5, 6 or something like that. You have like a Midland, Minot, and who else? Maybe a McKendree in there.
Yeah, something like.
But either way, like that's a tough pool. Like those are all good teams that can compete with the Liberty, and 2 of them will not make it out of that pool.
Yeah, that's a valid thought. Liberty, you mentioned their pool. They will play Niagara, who's sitting at 11, 10, and 2. Grand Canyon, which is 14, 15, 1-1. Crazy to see. This is like CFL, a team that has a losing record under 500 making it to the playoffs.
Yeah,
so,
I'm pretty. They won their conference, so yeah, that helped them out. So
go Roughnecks. Which one?
That's
right?
Yeah, and I think the matchup between Grand Canyon and Liberty is going to be interesting, right? It's the East Coast Christian School versus the West Coast. Christian School, so.
Which evangelical powerhouse will claim the title. We will see. Let's kind of Flames are kicking off. Lady Flames kicking off March 17th. A lot of postseason awards. Before we get to the postseason awards here, and I'll rip through those in a second, you do feel like after you see how the Lady Flames competed in their conference tournament, and I think you guys have had a pod since then, so you've probably touched on this. I've been kind of MIA lately. They have to have all the confidence in the world that if they play their best hockey, they've got this wrapped up. I know that's like an arrogant statement, but at the same time, I think it's a truthful statement.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're peaking at the right time. Hearing Chris Lowe say like one of their best games of the season was that championship game versus Minot, right? Like, and they only won that 2-1. And I remember Forfeit pointed out like, yeah, it was just. It's good that they're aware it was a mistake in the defensive zone that allowed Minot State to be able to score. So, like, the fact that Liberty was able to just find a way to still win that tight game, and they've done it multiple times this season, right? Either being down or tied, finding a way to pull it out, I think is huge. And the issue they had last year doesn't seem to be the issue this year, which is putting goals in the back of the net.
Fourth, you always are very, like, humble when it comes to this, and I think you play a great line of, like, where the current teams are with past teams. But when you look at this group, like, do you feel like this is a group that's poised to regain a natty? And like, if you see maybe a weakness or a crack in the armor, what would it be?
No weaknesses. They're going all the way, baby. Here we go. No, I think you touched on it nicely when you like. I think they have a really good chance to win this one. Yeah. I think top to bottom, they're very strong. They brought in a good big class with a lot of talent this year. And I think their goaltending's as good as it's ever been. And I think Keith is playing some solid hockey right now. And yeah, they're scoring. at a high level. As we talked about in conference, they outscored,
Right.
I don't know, 17-1.
Yeah.
So, and again, if you go 3 games and you give up 1 goal, I think that's right on par with Coach Lowe's kind of identity and mentality.
Sounds like we're talking soccer here.
Well, let's not say he's never happy. So he's not happy with 1 goal, but he'll allow it.
Yeah.
So obviously, shutouts are the goal. Knock on wood. I didn't actually just say that. But they're in a really good spot. I'm excited to be in St. Louis when they're there this year because I'll be going with women's too. So we're going to be able to catch some of those games. So
That's exciting.
yeah, hopefully cheesecake after.
Let's take a look here. Some postseason awards. Zasha Adamek named second team All Athletic ACHA, first team WMCH, first team All Tournament. Brielle Fussy named second team WMCH, first team All Tournament and tourney MVP. Maddie Glynn, second team WMCH and first team All Tournament. Haley Battles, first team All Tournament. Presley Ellis named All WMCH rookie, all rookie team, and then second team All Tournament. She's been fun to watch here. She's got a big personality. The couple games I've gotten to watch this year. Alex Keith named second team All Tournament. Coach Lowe's wins his third WD1 ACHA Coach of the Year. He's got to put up a new shelf in the house now, and also named the WMCH Conference Coach of the Year. All right, Men's Division 2. You're saying there's a chance, Pat. This is a group. This one's gonna be fun to break down in some ways because when you look at them, we've talked a lot about their depth this season and how, like, when you look at lines 1 through 4, I wouldn't say it's lacking, but when you're going through like a tournament and playoff style, especially with the round robin and then to the Final Four, it's a lot of hockey in a short amount of time, and you need depth, and that's one area where Liberty has been lacking this season. However, the hockey gods, if you will, the pool gods, show favor on Liberty this time around. And when you look at who they have to face, you kind of see, okay, I can definitely see a pathway there. This might be one of the, and like Coach, they're going to be mad at me. Coach Hughes is going to be like, what are you saying? Like, don't be putting this into my guys' heads. But this is maybe not the most intense pool that they've had in the past couple of years.
No, and I think so too. Now, it's a tough pool because St. Thomas is, to me, they're almost in that echelon of, look at tier 1 teams and MD2. They're right there.
Quad 1.
Like they're
wins.
like they're like trying to punch down that door because like a couple years ago they made the Final Four. Last year I think they had a good tournament too. Didn't make it out of pool play, but still respectable tournament. And then this year back at Natty's, looking to finally make it back to the Final Four and make some noise. So like that first game's going to be really tough for Liberty, especially since they lost early in the season versus them. And then Texas, can't sleep on them coming out of the West. Like they're a quality program. I think it's their first ever trip too. So it's kind of funny too, like seeing the last few years Texas club sport programs starting to pick up a lot more. Like lacrosse last year was the number 2 team in the country for them. So like like now their hockey team's getting it together. So
their
like
curling team's doing wonders.
And then Army Northwest, like they made nationals last year, and Army Northwest. I don't know why I called them Northwest.
I was believing.
Yeah,
okay,
but
Army
they're out of the Northeast, and they made nationals last year. Now they're the number 1 seed in the Northeast, and I mean they're doing big things. And also too, they had the Northeast Player of the Year. Sorry, I forgot his name already because awards just came out yesterday, and I didn't.
That's all right. They just put Army on the back of their jersey.
That's right, and also too, like they are guys called Mike instead, so. Mike Padgett. So, but yeah, I think this is a very doable pool for Liberty if they believe. And talking to some of the guys, they definitely believe that they have a chance, especially if they can set the tone in that first game. It's going to do wonders for them.
Yeah, if you're a Fast and the Furious fan, One Last Ride really comes because this is a veteran group. Like this is the year to get it done. It's fun. Like Pat, you've been saying the past couple seasons, like. This is the group, not saying like this is the year to get it done, but that was the recruitment class to be able to get it done. And here they are, their senior season, and like this is it.
This is
One last ride.
I won't lie. There's a couple guys that left last season that I don't think the team was expecting to be gone this year.
Right.
Like because they didn't play 4 years or even really 3 years, and you're like, oh, they're gone already, and so you're like, ooh, that was a big loss. So like. This year, I believe they honored 10 seniors
crazy.
on senior night, and like a lot of key players in that. Like to me, like next year will be almost a rebuilding year for this men's Division II team.
Could
so
be
like,
exciting.
Yeah, so like I think a lot of these guys are going to be going out knowing like, yeah, this is our last kick at it, and the way everything opened up is a lot better chance for us than it has been in years past.
The one nice thing is that it feels like they're finally remotely healthy.
Yeah.
Like, the health battles this team has faced, not only this year, but like the last couple seasons, has been like sooner or later your luck has to change. It feels like this is a team that's like healthy at the right time. You know, they've had a pretty substantial amount of time off too, so bodies should be in pretty good shape here.
And itching to play, right?
Yeah,
like guys should be wired up. So
what do you think about that fourth? Like they've had a pretty substantial, time being laid off, and St. Thomas is going to be coming in after having made it through regional play. Do you like that first game? Like, how tricky is that?
I love it, right? Because I think Liberty has the rest that they needed, right? They didn't need to go to a regional because they needed to heal up, like you just talked about. And I love that they play their, let's say on paper, the toughest opponent first. Like, you just mentally have to be ready to go from that puck drop, and you need to win that first game, and then you need to win that second game. But I like the St. Thomas matchup first, and just see where you're at and get it done.
Yeah, rest obviously going to be key in this, and I think one guy that played a lot of hockey this season who is going to be amped up. We talked about just the last go for the senior group. Lane Scon, we've heard him mention like he wants to make it to that championship game, right? He wants to get there. In a lot of ways, I think you can argue he, in some ways, has to be the best player throughout this tournament. Like anytime you want to win a natty, your goaltender has to be top notch. But I think it really does come into play in this tournament because you're talking about lack of depth. You're gonna really need him to be a quality game manager and just kind of freezing the puck when needed, getting guys like being able to take changes in the defensive zone, like really a methodical approach to these games he's in, because this is a team, again, I think you're going to have to really play things strategically in order to make it through these minimum 5 games that you're going to have to play to win a title.
Yeah, and I think also too, I mean, really that whole senior group is going to have to be like, you're the most battle tested, you know what it takes to get there. A lot of them have played big moments this season especially, so like you really need to lean on that senior group this year, and like for them, like you said, last ride, right? Last ride. They like gotta kind of take it like that and think like, yep, I gotta make sure that I know I did everything possible to hopefully get us out of pool play and then potentially onward to a national championship.
I have all these like lines from the movie coming in my head that I just want to throw out there, but like nobody's gonna get it. You know, half these kids probably weren't even like born when that movie.
Well, when the first one came out,
yeah, I know. It's just like thinking about that. Like that's the one. The lines are coming to my head. Like, I owe you a 5-second car. You know what I mean? Like, kids are gonna be like, what does that even mean? Anyway, it's gonna be a lot of fun here. What day? March 14th. There, I see it on my list here. The boys get started on this Friday, so exciting times coming up here ahead for them. All right, Women's Division II, 4th.
Yeah.
What happened? No,
I live my life a quarter mile at a time. So I don't remember
well
that.
played.
No, I mean,
I don't remember that.
no, obviously, conference didn't shape up the way that we had hoped, but I think if we look throughout the season, and speaking of peaking at the right time, I think Villanova is a good hockey program. Defensively, they shut us down.
Okay.
We didn't do anything special at all. But I think it's a good learning experience for us. Like, we can't go in and not play our best hockey and be effective. So there's a lot of things that as a coaching staff we need to maybe address and work on and tweak as we move forward. But again, like obviously it sucks that we didn't win it, but I think the girls are very motivated to head into nationals and try our best to get out of our also tough pool.
Yeah, you guys have about 2 weeks until your tournament starts. So kind of, what would you say? What is the focus in practice for your group leading up to that?
So I think we need to be really focusing on making those simple plays, getting reds and deep, and trying to play fast. And then also special teams need to be better. We're not happy really with power play or PK right now, not being very consistent. So everything. Right? I think like as a coach, it can be a little, as a coach, it can be a little overwhelming of like, what are the important things? Like you can talk about that, and then like, okay, also we have to tweak this. But I think we're in a good spot. I think we're probably the healthiest we've ever been this season, and all three of our goalies are healthy. And I think if we put anyone in any one of these first three games, we have a chance.
That kind of popped in my head. You know, you always hear if you have three goalies, do you have one? Do you guys pick a starter for the tournament? Just kind of ride with one? Like, I know you're not going to name it here on the podcast.
Yeah,
but
no.
Is that the plan?
No. I think we have to be strategic with whoever we decide maybe is our girl. Not doing all three.
Right.
I think the workload management is maybe not there right now.
Okay.
But I think if we had to, all three could win us a game.
Here's a novel idea for you. Okay?
Yeah.
Back in the day, this is probably going 10 years ago. Pat, I don't know if you remember this either. Boston College had two goalies that they played 30 minutes each in a game.
Really?
Midway through the second.
Was it the same person that went in cold every time?
Yeah.
Coach coming in
Always,
cold?
you just pull him off the bench. You could have one a period.
Yeah.
His whole thing. Yeah, we could.
We could.
His whole thing was like, goaltending is such an intense position. How could I imagine them trying to play this, like, be at their best for 60 minutes? And in my head, I'm like every other team is doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like the rest of the world?
Grown up playing. I don't know. I just thought it was so weird. But yeah, you could just break boundaries here and just give each a period.
I'm making a note of that.
Yeah.
How far did that team get, Rhett?
They made it to...
Not the championship.
No, they didn't make it to the championship, but I do think they made it to the Final Four.
Okay.
And that was the question, because there was one goaltender that everybody kind of thought he's a bit better. And they said, if he has a shutty going midway through the game, will he make it? You know, pull him and bring in the other guy. I think he let in one, and they ended up losing. It wasn't too bad. Like, it was like a 3-1 loss or something. So, anyways, it was wild. When I thought of that, I was like, man, I would not want to play for that guy. Like, at least I guess you're getting your ice time every game, but still.
Yeah. No, that is soft.
Yeah.
That's
You gotta split it right down the middle. Like, okay.
Yeah, I don't get it. Anyways, let's look here at the pool for the Lady Flames. Obviously, they're top in their pool, sitting at 22-3 on the year. Following that is Wisconsin, 14-2-2. They're independent. Villanova, 18-7-1, number 3 in the Southeast. They are, as we just mentioned, the DVCHC champs. Mercyhurst, 14-6-1, number 5 in the Southeast. And so it's gonna. What do you think about the pool? Like, obviously, you got Villanova, who just knocked you off in there, but overall, are you happy with the pool?
Yeah, so I think if I could draw it out, I was happier 4 weeks ago when St. Thomas was in there.
Okay.
But Wisconsin beat them twice in a row, pretty handily. And then I thought Mercyhurst was going to jump Niagara to put Niagara as number 4 in our pool because they just thumped them 7-1 to win their conference. So Mercyhurst, Villanova, and Wisconsin are all playing good hockey, and obviously we just lost to Villanova.
Yeah.
And I know Mercyhurst has a girl with 40 goals on the year.
Okay.
So, those
So it's a tough pool.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy, but if you look at it, I like our pool the best out of all 4.
In some ways, I think you could say this, and like obviously your goal is to win a national championship, but this is like your first time coming into a situation where you are viewed as the number 1 seed in it, and there's obviously learning that has to be done. You might as well go into a pool where you have to learn quickly that each game is extremely difficult, and the effort that you're gonna have to show night in and night out at nationals for future growth. If you're not able to, like, you're either gonna learn a ton or you're gonna make it through and learn a ton, right?
Yeah, no, I think last year with the girls kind of maybe exceeded expectations, going to winning 2 out of 3, almost getting out of their pool. Last year, I think we have a lot of those same core girls, so they've been there before. They've won games that are big and important, and they've also know what it feels like to lose last year and that one of those games, and also we didn't win conference, right? So like that feeling sucks.
Yeah.
So just trying to lean into both of those experiences going into this tournament. And the fact is that we're the number 1 seed. We get last change. And so as coaching staff, what can we do to best prepare our girls and try to give us the upper hand?
Yeah, I will say too, familiarity will be key for them as well. Like he just mentioned, a lot of girls that were a part of that group that was able to get not only the first 2 wins at nationals ever, but then also Mercyhurst former CHE rival, right? That you guys used to play a lot, and so like that's good for have familiarity of what that program likes to do. You've played Villanova now 5 times. This will be a 6th time at nationals. Like so, you kind of have an idea of what that team likes to do too. So I think that bodes well for you guys moving into at least those first 2 games of pool play.
Definitely.
All right. Wrapping things up here, Men's Division 3, 5th time is a charm for the boys. They win their first ACCHL title, second ever conference title. And let's take a look here how they got through the tournament. They win 6-0 versus Appalachian State in the quarters. Then they take down York in the semis 9-1. Finally claimed the championship over Coastal Carolina, who this team has had a long history with, winning 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, right? Like, obviously, 5th time they faced them in a championship game since
crazy.
2019. Like, so that's pretty
keeping
wild.
the Coastal rival alive.
Over
Yeah.
2 conferences too, right? Like, because I believe they were in, was it the CHE or I can't ECH, something like that. But they were in a conference prior to joining the ACCHL. Coastal came over the same year we did, and yeah, I mean it's pretty. I think for Liberty, you had some of your seniors and even there's a couple grad guys on the team too. Like just for them to finally be able to get it done, I think that was just like a. Okay, we got one, and now I think that for them that's gonna be huge momentum heading into the national tournament because like now you're in a feeling that we've never felt this way before, and like after winning another regular season, you're hoping to be able to have success in the conference tournament, and this time you finish the job.
Monkeys off the back.
Right.
Like that,
big
that
time.
is big.
And like also too, tons of depth of scoring, right? Like throughout the not just this season, but throughout the entire tournament. Like there's someone big having big games in each game, and I think that was huge for Liberty too.
And their goaltender gets tournament MVP, Kyle Westbury, stopping 39 of 40 versus Coastal. Big day for him. And so the Flames, again, claim their first ACCHL title. Now they move on to the AAU D3 National Tournament as the number 1 seed.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, too. Like, so, tough pull for them. Obviously, they're going to face St. John's, Rowan, who they do know, and they had some battles with, and then the last team, Alvernia. So that's a team they don't really know anything about. Now, this will be the pool play, even after they get through it, it's still going to be a very tough tournament. There is a team that's currently number 2 that has had a pretty good year. I know neither of you guys know the team that I'm talking about, but that team is Columbia University. They have a familiar ACHA name.
Okay.
Brandon Abizov from Stony Brook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He is currently leading the country with 111 points.
Oh, my goodness.
He's 40 points above second place.
How many games?
In 20-something games.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty similar to like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
my first year at ACH.
Yeah, exactly.
11 points.
That's right. So, like, I think that is going to be...
I do remember him.
That is going to be tough. Obviously, we all
Ibiza?
remember he is big time game breaker. So like if and then also too some of these other teams that they could face, obviously Coastal, they're in Pool C, so there's a chance they could face them in the semis again, and then also South Carolina. So yeah, there's some good teams throughout this tournament. But the good thing is for Liberty, you have played a fair amount of the teams that are currently in the national tournament field, so that also breeds familiarity too.
Liberty getting the number 1 overall seed. How was that surprising to you?
Yeah, very surprising.
Okay.
Like I think
it's not surprising when you hear that they were number 1 in the nation and then third in their conference. So like they're just picking numbers out of a hat.
This is a random thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm looking through here like the tournament stuff, like from the ACCHL, and I'm just like this, just like it doesn't seem to be very in sync. But at the same time, who knows?
Yeah, it's a newer league. They're just working through their numbers and stats, right? Like, okay, how are we actually going to do this moving forward? Growing pains. But I think for me in this tournament, I think you just grab a drink and watch, right? Like, hopefully you get through. I got my coffee here.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm excited to see how well they do. I think pool play, they'll handle their business if they play the way they can. I think they're a talented group. But yeah, you run into a 110-point guy. We'll see what happens.
The biggest thing is you shut like their line's probably going to get theirs. You can't let the rest of the team get anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, and also too, you got to limit how much they get theirs, right? Like, I don't think he hasn't had a game where he hasn't registered at least 2 points.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be a barn burner, right? You got if you win 7-6, that's a win.
That's right.
It is.
So, and it's possible. So,
you know, coming from coaching that level, like many years ago now, that was the one thing that it really was like the wild, wild west in that sense. Like, it just drove you nuts because I'm trying to think. George Mason had a guy who had gotten a scholarship to NCAA Division I, and I don't know why, but some reason
grades weren't there.
That's what you're right. Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
He was a dummy. Respectfully.
I'm not going to say his name now. But anyways,
You'll go by Joe.
Yeah, Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
He, I remember we played George Mason and we lost 7-6. I think, like literally, and it might have been in overtime.
Yeah, it was, and
Was it?
he scored 5 of the goals.
Yeah, and I think he had apples on the other 2.
Yeah, he did.
God.
It was just like you're doing your best, but like that's the crazy thing about that level of hockey is that you can have literally one guy that's a good enough player and he can change the entire dynamic. It feels like basketball in that sense. Like, what other sport really, when you think about it, that's a team sport, has one individual that's that important? Like, hockey's not usually that way, but at that level of hockey, if you get one guy that can just skate and has a decent IQ, he can just make you miserable,
that game,
right?
Yeah.
Like, it's it's crazy. I guess the only other one you can really think of is baseball if you have just a dominant starting pitcher. But even then, like, it doesn't feel quite the same way.
No, and it's tough, right? And also, too, it's all about the momentum and matchups, right? Like, you get him, like that guy, I just felt like he just seemed faster than everyone on the ice that night. Like,
that guy for George Mason.
Yeah, so, I was just kind of, because I remember watching the game, I was like, who is this guy? I was like, oh, they're going to go all the way. But obviously, they ran into some better teams, like, once it gets top tier. So, like, it's tough.
And the minutes that I'm sure some of those guys play is crazy.
Oh, right. Playing,
like all situations, like every other shift. Like, they've got 7 forwards, and he's just, like, on the ice all the time.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, if you take him out of the situation, like, for when we were playing them back then, like, we're winning that game 6-2.
Yeah, maybe not even 6-2 because, like, you remember he got the apples for those too.
Right.
So
that team was not great.
Yeah.
You know, but with him, they were a team that I think they made it to Natties. Like,
I think so too.
So it's just, it's funny how that works. So yeah, well, that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, like if they wouldn't see each other until the championship, but this is a D3 team. I think very capable of making a championship, and then it's just. A good thing for Liberty.
Can I see, like I said, pull up the pools here real quick?
The depth, yeah.
All right, so just for those of you at home, I know the AAU is kind of still like a new thing to everybody. We went through the Liberty pool. So the next pool is Columbia Lions. Then you have Rutgers, App State, and then Tennessee. Pool C has South Carolina Gamecocks. Here we go, the clocks. Coastal, Stony Brook, and then Stony Brook's in the AAU. Did not realize that. And then Fairfield.
2 teams, I believe.
Do they really?
AAU.
Did not realize that. And is that it? Is there only 3 pools?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's your 3 pools going into AAU D3 Natty. So did a lot of teams move up from last year?
So a fair amount of teams. I've noticed that fair amount of teams moved up to D2, but there's still 50-something D3 teams in AAU. So like I don't know what they decided pool-wise what they did, but a fair amount. Like High Point has 2 teams now, so like a lot of their guys that were on that really strong D3 team are on that D2 team now.
D2 team. Okay.
So and like and the D1 pool is bigger now as well. So like they just finished their nationals. But real quick, a little sidebar. I would like to see. They won't probably ever do it at the end of the year because guys will start getting checked out. But like at some point mid-season, they should do an AAU ACHA Classic.
Oh, like
have the
almost
champs,
like an invitational.
Yeah, have the champs of both leagues go head to head.
Yeah,
right. Just to see like, because I'm kind of curious. Like, because Tampa just won, I believe, D1's AAU. So I'm like, I was like, what's the gap between Tampa versus whoever becomes the ACHA D1 champ?
They'd get mopped. Oh, they would.
Yeah, I mean,
Tampa-
probably-
Like-
Tampa's a good ACHA D3 team.
Right.
They were,
If I
yeah.
recall correctly.
They were.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
they
maybe and they probably would compete.
Middle of the pack D2.
But like that's a
Yes.
few, and that's a few years ago. So like, and that's a good question too, right? Like maybe even have like the D2 champ versus the D1 champ at ACHA too,
Right.
and all that stuff, just to
Yeah.
see like, yeah.
Apples
It
to
doesn't
apples.
have to be one game apiece. Like it could be
Yeah.
multiple games throughout.
We
The
could
That's
have
a
a whole
cool idea.
tournament. Yeah.
In some ways, you could just start the year that way. Like have those teams come back. You have that starts your schedule for the year for both leagues. Is that you have this tournament and all three champs on either side meet and play.
And then there's relegation.
Yeah. Sorry, you're not. That would be. That's a good idea, Pat. I like that. Outdoor classic.
Yeah,
No,
it
you
could
could
be, you know. Yeah, I thought,
September.
yeah. So, well, I mean,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
know,
geez,
like
yeah.
go somewhere up north, and it's like, oh, yeah, they already got the feels in the fall.
I don't know. That would be kind of a cool idea. Nobody would ever do it. There's too much to lose.
Oh yeah, no one for sure would do it, but
Yeah.
we can dream. Hey, you know,
It sounds like it's
we'll
going to
do-
cost a lot of money.
Yeah, we'll simulate it in NHL. You know how they do the Madden simulation,
yeah.
and then we'll do the same thing in
Yeah.
NHL, and then we'll show it to everyone.
I do like the classic idea, Pat. Man, that would be a lot of fun. Got to get in the ears of some Kirk. Kirk can do it. Kirk just has the ears
true.
of everybody, so we'll make him get on top of that for us. All right, before we go, I don't know if we'll get a pod in. At least I don't know if I'll be part of the pod next week because I won't be in St. Louis with you guys. Out of the 5 Liberty teams, do more than one? Because I think we're pretty confident on Women's Division 1 has a great chance. Does more than one team bring home a national championship?
I'm feeling bold. I'm going to say 3. Oh,
Really?
I do think.
Can you imagine that?
I do think multiple teams have a chance.
Okay.
I really do. Like obviously, yeah. I'm not gonna
Get out there, Pat.
Yeah. I'm not gonna put my stamp of approval
Yeah.
officially because like it all depends on like who shows up, right? Like I'm being dead serious. Like
I get it.
Like I think all 5 teams have a opportunity to do well if they play some of their best hockey, which they're all capable of, like we've seen throughout this season. So yeah, it just depends. Again, what team shows up.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 2. I'm gonna say 2.
2?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
you're a believer in men's 1 this year.
I am.
He is.
I think I do agree with you. Conrad Kausch is a gamer, right? I know he wasn't playing his best hockey down the stretch, but he'll get back there. I really believe. Like it's hard to stop a team as long as they play smart defensively.
Yeah, that for me is going to be the thing. Like
Yeah.
the forwards are great.
Right.
Kausch is amazing. The defensemen for Liberty's Division 1 men's team need to do nothing except for play defense. No one needs to make a play. No one needs to make a big hit. Just play sound defensively, and I think you have a great shot at a championship.
I concur. 100%.
That sounds really good. Sounds like a winning formula. Maybe you should come out earlier for it.
Yeah.
Get on the bench.
I'm getting on a flight. I'll meet Kerr out there here. 6 hours. See you there.
All right, a lot more to come. Rock the Rink heading your way over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, it's the most exciting time of the year. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and we'll see you next time.